All right, welcome back. We're working on the old Toronado project again today, and as I was looking for parts that I think I need to get this old girl running, searching the internet and everything, I ended up getting sick, so I was down and out for a while. But now I'm feeling better, and I got some of the parts I think I need to get this thing making some hot oil again. But before we do, we got to go under the hood and do a little cleanup here, because this was supposed to be a barn find car, and well, it was a barn find car. It was supposed to be kept in a barn its entire life, but that's not the case, because there's all sorts of pine needles and all sorts of tree crap underneath the hood. So we're going to clean that out, and there's also some food left by some critters in there, so we're going to go ahead and suck that out with the vacuum, and then we can start working on the old 403 here and seeing if she can get running. Yeah, and this is what I mean. There's a lot of stuff here, pine needles and whatnot. That's not all from being inside. This thing was definitely stored outside. I mean, looks pretty pretty dirty, so we're gonna get the vacuum out and the air hose or whatever we need to suck all that out. Maybe we're gonna get rid of some of this stuff hanging here too, because it's just gonna be getting in the way and maybe falling, you know, all over the engine after we try to clean it off. So we'll do a little cleanup here and then start working on that 403. Well, there goes the battery tray. I mean, completely, yeah, no battery tray left. That was completely rusted. Satisfying. All that crap out of there. All right, that looks quite a bit better. Man, this thing is interesting. This has got what they call a MISAR ignition system in it, or MISAR, whatever. MISAR, anyways, it uses a whole bunch of coolant, temperature sensors and vacuum sensors, and all goes to this box underneath the dash, which then based on engine temp and vacuum and load and whatnot, provides the spark at the right time to the distributor. So it's not like a conventional HEI, and I'm still learning about it, but we've got a vacuum hose here going all the way under there, I think, and that's where the MISAR brain of the whole system is, underneath the passenger side of the dash. So there's vacuum signal going there. There are a bunch of wires and whatnot, I'm not sure which ones, going there as well. There's some of these wires here, so there's some sort of signal. I'm not sure what that is. It's this guy here. That might have been just something else, but yeah, the MISAR ignition system. So there's apparently also a like reluctor wheel of some sort behind the crank pulley or somewhere there, which is the trigger signal for the box as well. Looking around this thing, we see a couple other interesting things here. EGR looks to be broken right here. So I'll have to either get another EGR valve or plug that or something. I'm not really too sure. Yeah, lots of room back there. You know, you can see the transmission. This is where I believe in here is where the 2-inch wide chain is. So there's a chain drive which comes off the back of the engine and runs the transmission forward. You can see there's a huge CV right there. Or the flange for the front CV. So there's a differential on that transmission. So the transmission, I think, is turned like 180 degrees and runs beside the engine more or less, or right in here. Yeah, you can see the trans lines going in. Quadrajet, probably somewhere around 750 CFM, I'm not really sure, but that's pretty common. And it's just got wires and vacuum hoses And there's a temp sensor up here in the water pump, and all sorts of stuff. There's like a modulator, a vacuum modulator, I believe. Oh no, that goes to this box, which is probably cruise control. Ah, okay. So there's probably where your cruise control feed goes into this box. Wow, it's totally different than anything I've been used to working on. So it's going to be a lot of fun trying to get this thing running. And I don't know if you can see that down there, but there is a timing mark on the balancer. So that was something that I wasn't sure of. Where is it? Right there. Hopefully you can see that little line there. So there's a timing mark on the balancer. So we need to change the MISAR distributor. We can put something else in there and we should be able to get timing. And there is a timing tab down there too. I don't know if you can get the camera in there, but there's a timing tab and a mark on the balancer. I also like the way they have the oil filler here. It's kind of like a 327. Super easy to add oil to this thing. Oil filter is really easy to get to as well. It's just kind of down here. It looks pretty straightforward. You could probably almost do that without jacking the car up. And another thing which is really neat is look at where the fuel pump is. It's right here on the front of the block. Super easy, it looks like, to get to. Fuel pump shouldn't be a problem either. I can probably change that right from up here. Just remove a couple brackets on the AC pump or AC compressor here. So that's another thing. Like, this car is just going to be a lot easier to work on. So before I crank on this thing anymore, I want to get something in those cylinders. So there's some lube in there. There could be some rust in there. And as I was spinning it over, trying to get a compression reading, I was worried about how much I was turning that engine over. So we're going to put some stuff in there. You know what it is. We're going to do the old Marvel mystery oil. Everybody does it. So I've never really used this stuff. I usually just use like tranny fluid and a little bit of diesel. But we'll try this and we'll get those cylinders soaking. Plugs out. And we'll squirt a good amount, good liberal squirting in there, and we'll let her sit. And then we'll start playing with trying to get some spark out of this thing. Alrighty, so the passenger side bank has been lubed with the oil of many mysteries, and then just gonna do the driver's bank here. Got a couple more to do. And we're going to let that sit for a little while, probably overnight. Here's the old firing order, as I can see it stamped onto the intake manifold. 1843657. Well, that's the same as your Chevy small block firing order. I guess this is technically a small block Oldsmobile, the 403, so it's got the same firing order as a small block Chevy, even a big block Chevy, I believe. But interesting car for sure. When I was looking at buying something as a project to get running, something older, something that I could learn about, something I could investigate and learn the history on, there was an overwhelming amount of you guys out there that saw the first video that commented on this and gave me a lot of information. So super thankful, super helpful in understanding what it is that I'm working on here. And honestly, the more I read the comments and the more I got the information from not only the YouTube channel, but some of the Oldsmobile forums that I went on, the more I actually started to really like this car. So this car is extremely cool. The innovations for its time, like the MISAR ignition system, like a 1-year only system for this car. The MISAR system uses a lot of the same inputs that modern fuel injection uses to control the spark there. So it's got a reluctor wheel. It's got all the inputs that go to the box underneath the dash, which are engine vacuum, temperature, whatnot. So it's a really innovative, advanced system. I just hope I can get the MISAR working at some point. If not, we got another solution here. But yeah, as far as innovations go, this car was really advanced for its time. Yeah, so in '77, Oldsmobile came up with the XSR, which was basically this car, but it had a T-top. It was a powered T-top, but then GM decided that that T-top system, which folded, I believe, into the roof, was a little bit too troublesome and too costly to produce for reliability purposes. So they axed it, and they left the rear window with this wraparound rear window, which is like, they use a hot wire to bend the glass. The Chevy Caprice also had a similar back window, but yeah, pretty innovative. This transmission in here is the TH425. This is the last year they used the TH425. They went to a smaller TH325 when they started to go to different engine designations. So this is a pretty robust transmission. I'm hoping it works. This is the same transmission that they had behind like the 500 cubic inch and the 472 cubic inch caddies. They used to put this transmission with 455s, I believe, into motorhomes, which were probably 8,500, 9,000 pounds, so a lot heavier than this. So I'm hoping that this engine, only making, you know, 185 horse, 325 pound-feet of torque, more or less, and the weight of the car wouldn't put any damage or any undue stress on the transmission. So I'm hoping the tranny works fine. So we'll find out though once we get this thing running. And I've said it before, but I've never seen a car where the plugs are so easy to change. Like, these are super easy to change, especially the driver's side. Like, they are right there. All right, Marvel mystery of oils in the last cylinder. So we're gonna let this cook, so to speak, and move on. Yeah, I've also got a little heater I bought running inside the car, which I don't know if you can see. Yeah, she's quite tarped up, but there's another heater in there running really low just to keep it warm. When it gets cold and humid like it's getting right now, it chills you to the bone, but also things get a lot of moisture, things get damp, and that interior we don't want to get damp and get fungus and mold and all sorts of other crap growing in there, or any more than it already has. So we've got a heater going. We're also going to put some Coil on some of the linkage here for the Quadra Bog. Not that it's getting stiff, but we just don't want anything to freeze up on us, and we want everything to really be lubed up. So we'll just do some of this here. But here's sort of where we're at, and we'll come back tomorrow, which will be the next clip for you fellas and ladies, and we'll see what this thing can do. We'll roll her over again, purge out some of that oil, and maybe do another compression test, see if the numbers came up a bit with a little bit of lubrication in the cylinders and those rings hopefully doing what the rings should do, right? We'll see you in the next clip. All right, so it's the next morning here. We've got all the plugs out, and we're gonna just spin this over here. We've got ourselves a battery on a charger. Again, we're just gonna crank on that key and see what comes out of the cylinders there. All that mystery oil should be blowing itself out. All right, here we go. All right, so the plugs are all back in. I wanted to do another compression test just to see if any of that mystery oil helped anything in there. So let's quickly crank that up. So it looks like 120 again, so no difference there. But I definitely like the way the engine cranks now. It seems to just crank a little smoother, a little easier. It's got nice even sound to the cranking. Again, like I mentioned, it doesn't sound like one of the cylinders is hurt, or like there's compression not being built on one cylinder. So 120 again, that's pretty much what we expect for an 8-to-1 motor, and we're gonna keep going. Okay, so we're gonna start this diagnostics here from the beginning. So we're gonna take the bat wire off our HEI and see if we've got the right amount of voltage. Should have 12 volts, I believe, with the accessory on, or the key on, in the run position, and then while cranking that should drop to, I don't know, 8.5, something like that, to 9 volts. So let's take a look and see if we've got the right voltage coming into the HEI. Okay. Find a suitable ground. Hopefully we can prop you up here. I hope that you can see that. And then we'll crank this thing, or we'll put the key in the old run position. So how do we do that? Okay. There we go. Whoop. So we got actually 14 volts. Is that what that's saying? 11, 10, 13, 14. It's bad connection, bad ground, but I think we're getting the right amount of voltage there. Let me try and hook this up a little better. 14 volts, okay, so we got a minimum 12 there. Now we'll crank it. That should dip. Okay, so the distributor has the power it needs going to it. None of the wires were chewed or anything, which is a good thing. Little critters did live in this car, as you can see in the interior. Yeah, just opening up this Dizzy here, looking at the cap and the rotor. This is brand new stuff. I did see another rotor and cap in the trunk. So somebody has put a brand new cap and rotor in this. So suspects would be this pickup module right here, which I should probably go ahead and grab. And I guess the also other issue could be the coil, which we can also do an ohms check and test that out. So I guess we'll work on those things right now. Okay, so now we're gonna test the coil. So I've got the cap and coil assembly off the car, just so you can do this in here on the bench, and it's really easy to do actually. There's a lot of videos on YouTube, but it's very straightforward. So you want to test the primary and both the secondary windings in the coil for resistance. So you're going to be going with your multimeter here, and you're going to be checking for resistance. And the primaries you want to have under 1 ohm of resistance, and on the secondaries you want to have somewhere between 3 and 30,000 ohms. So we'll go do that right now. I'll just kind of go through it and walk you through it. Okay, so we got our coil in our cap. So there's a couple 1/4 inch bolts that you got to take out, or screws, and then it'll take the cover off. Those in there, and then wow, that actually looks like a brand new coil. That is really clean. So you can kind of test this, I think like this, but I'm going to pop it right out just to show you exactly what we're testing here. So again, 4 more 1/4 inch, I guess they're screws. This is our ground, but that's also where we're going to test for our secondary windings. So, okay, so now then they've got, you got to grab yourself a little wrench here, or a little needle nose, and just pull these out, just like so, and then the whole assembly can come right on out. There we go, and that's right there where the button on the inside of the cap touches the rotor. See, so this is where the center of the rotor would touch and distribute the power to each of the different cylinders, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this little spring deal touches the underside of this. So now that we've got our coil assembly here out, you can see the primary windings are these two. Secondary winding would be between here, this little eyelet, and the center of the coil. So starting off with the multimeter, we're going to go to the 20 k ohm scale real quick, and I'm going to go across both the primaries, and I should see under 1 ohm. So we can just go here. What are we getting there? 0.7, 0.8. Making sure we have a good contact. Depends on where you do it, but let's try going here. 0.17. Let's do alligator clips. We're going to alligator clip that side, make life a little easier. And touch this side. So what do we see? 0.33. That's a better contact. So 0.33, so it's under 1 ohm. That's good on the primary side. And now we're going to go to the secondary. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take this scale and go up to 200 k ohm, because it's going to need to register up to 30,000 ohms or less than 30,000 ohms. And we're going to get a nice contact here. So 3,800 ohms. So this is a good 3,900. So this is a good coil. It looks like it because it's basically brand new. So not the coil from what I can see. All right, so a new cap, a new rotor, and a new coil looks like. So this car's had some ignition issues before, and it looks like someone threw a bunch of parts at it. And it's a complicated system, the MISAR system. Like I said, it's and it's a 1 year only. So now I'm suspicious of either the pickup coil or the ignition module inside the distributor, and one of those parts, the ignition module, I can't buy. It doesn't show anywhere. It's not listed anywhere. Rock Auto, which I buy everything that I can't find here in Canada, they don't even list it. So we may have to do something else and put a conventional HEI out of an older 403 or another model 403 car. So maybe something out of a Trans Am or an Oldsmobile 98 or whatever it is, but we may end up having to swap out the entire MISAR distributor, unplugging everything and just using it straight as a normal distributor. That's probably what we're going to do to get it on the road and get it running, because I still got to check the transmission, I got to work on the brakes. I need a running car to be able to do all this kind of stuff. So we can look at the whole MISAR system later and see if we want to go back to originality, but that's not really the biggest thing for me. The biggest thing is to get this thing running and make sure that the engine and transmission and all the major mechanicals work. Okay, so tested the coil, everything's good there, right? So we got everything here that needs to come out. So I'm gonna pull the distributor, and before I do that, I gotta just wheel this thing over to the top dead center of the compression stroke. So here's cylinder number 1. You can see the Siamese bores of this. So it's intake, exhaust, intake, exhaust, exhaust, intake, exhaust, intake. So the two, I guess it would be 3 and 5 and 4 and 6 on the other side. The exhaust valves are actually close together, which makes it the Siamese cylinder head. So that's where the two exhaust valves are just cooking on that head gasket in there, which they tend to overheat, these cars. Another neat thing before I pull the Dizzy out is the distributor actually goes into the back of the block. It doesn't go through the intake manifold. There you go, Chevy guys, something a little different. Goes right through the back of the block. Intake manifold is not even affected or in the way, but we're gonna pull the distributor out. So I gotta get compression stroke top dead center, or top dead center of the compression stroke for cylinder number 1. See which way the cap or the rotor's pointing. It should be pointing somewhere around, I don't know, 1 o'clock or just before 1 o'clock. And then we'll go from there. All right, so I'm actually gonna pull the valve cover off here just so I can verify top dead center on the compression stroke. Also, I'd like to see what it looks like inside the engine here, or see how the valves are and the springs are, and get you a better idea of how maintained this really was. But the only thing is I can't seem to get them past this EGR housing here, which is already cracked, and I know that one needs to be repaired or either blocked off or something. So I've tried to take it off already. I've already busted one of the bolts off, of course. This is, again, cooked in here with exhaust. So the other option here is the other bolt. I'm going to go in there with a little bit of heat and carefully heat that up, and then try to break that one free without destroying everything. Looks like there's enough stud left on that other one. I could at least wind that out of the intake manifold where it's bolted into. So heat this up a little bit, get it nice and toasty. Try not to melt anything in there of importance. Hopefully I vacuumed everything out so it doesn't catch on fire. Hit it with a little bit of Coil. Let that do its thing. Likes to get hot, and it likes to wick its way in. And now we'll go in with a breaker bar, and I hope that's gonna break loose. Oh yeah, she's moving. I'm gonna go back and forth with it just so I can get some of that, hopefully some of that Coil to wick down into the threads, because it still could bind up on me. And oh, wait a minute, or I could just do that. So there you go, that thing was totally smoked, broken, destroyed. Look at that. So I can work that one, I can work this one out. I'll make a block off plate, I think, for that for right now, but valve cover can come off as soon as I get a spot for this guy. Can hang out over here, leave the vacuum line connected, and get some of that out of the way. Hopefully I don't have to take off the alternator bracket. Okay. Oh wow, actually getting somewhere. What's caught up here? Alternator bracket and stuff, but valve cover out of the way. A little bit of crap that I still should have vacuumed up. Stay there. Wow, look at the underside of the valve cover. That's insanely clean. All right, this is insane. Look at how clean it is under the valve cover. Like, this engine is immaculate inside. I mean, there's a little bit of crap in here. That's from me getting, you know, all the dirt and crap from the intake manifold in there. But man, this engine is extremely clean. And that makes me really happy. It makes me think that there's some life left in it. I mean, these things have silent glide timing sets, and they're plastic teeth on there, and a lot of horror stories about what could go wrong with these things, but that is a very clean looking engine so far. So yeah, happy about that. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna roll this thing over, put a battery in it, and get cylinder number 1 on TDC of the compression stroke. Okay, cylinder number 1 is all lined up. I got a remote starter here so I can do this from underneath the hood. Let's spin that over and let's look for top dead center compression stroke. Okay, exhaust on 1, intake, compression stroke. I can hear it hissing. That's probably top dead center right there. We're going to leave it for that. And the rotor should be normally facing around 1 o'clock, and it kind of is. So based on what I can see, we basically are TDC compression stroke, cylinder number 1, and the rotor's facing the right way. So we're going to yank that rotor out, or that distributor I should say, and then we're going to check that on the bench. Another interesting thing, the rotor turns counterclockwise. So if you're putting caps on and running your plug wires and everything, 1-843-6572 counterclockwise, opposed to Chevy again, which is clockwise. So learning a lot about this 403. Okay, so that distributor is well, she's in there. I don't think that's ever been taken out of the car. So there's a couple O-rings, I think, holding it in. I do have the hold down. Interesting looking hold down, not your typical, you know, prong kind of deal like that. So hold down's off. Thing won't even rotate, so I don't know. We're gonna have to wedge something in there or pry on that a little bit. It's aluminum, so I don't want to break that housing right here. But maybe if I come in with a piece of aluminum or something, or even phenolic down here, and I just kind of tap on the base, I can free that crap up. I sprayed some WD-40 and put some Coil and stuff down there, so let's see if we can get that loose. Okay, well, I resorted to trying to heat the block because it's an aluminum distributor and a cast iron block. So from what I know, between different metals is when they corrode, they get really frozen and locked up. So it's like the similar metal corrosion in there. So I'm going to try just to heat the block, trying to expand it as much as I can. But so far I've had a 1-inch wrench on the square part just above where the flame is there, and I can't move that thing very far at all. So it is frozen. Last thing I want to do is bust anything off in here, so I'm gonna heat the crap out of this and aero Coil the snot out of it, and I might have to let her sit overnight. I'll try to move it a bit. I did get it to move, but I mean, it's just a very small amount. So all right, everybody, well, I hate to say it, but that distributor is not coming out today. It is frozen in there. It is absolutely seized. I've never seen anything like it, but I guess you got cast iron and aluminum and you know, I'm in the aviation industry, so you see dissimilar metal corrosion all the time, and there's enough of a surface area all the way around and about that thick where it's absolutely seized itself to that block. And I almost think that if this was like a small block Chevy and you had the distributor passing through an aluminum intake manifold, it'd probably be a little bit easier. But it is frozen in there. I've tried heat, I've tried dousing that thing with WD-40 Coil, I've tried beating on it with an aluminum drift and a hammer. I've even got a 1-inch wrench on there, and I've tried moving it back and forth. I can get it to go about 1/4 of an inch, but it is so hard to turn that 1/4 of an inch. I've got both heels in the gravel. I'm two-handing that 1-inch wrench, and it is pulling me into the gravel. Like I'm moving, the car isn't moving, the distributor isn't moving. I'm just basically squishing myself up against the car to get to move that 1/4 of an inch. So I almost think I bruised a rib, actually. Yeah, these are pretty sharp, the peaks of these fenders here. But we're going to let that soak a bit more, and I'm going to try beating on it again with hammers and drifts and dousing that thing with heat, doing whatever I can. But the sun's kind of going down, and I'm pretty much done for the day. So I'm trying to get the distributor out for a reason, and I'll show you that on the bench. So here's my plan. My plan was to put this brand new distributor out of a non-MISAR 403 Olds powered car into this car, because I don't know of the crank trigger system, if that's going to be faulty. I don't know if the MISAR box under the dash is going to be faulty. I don't know what else is going to be faulty. And when I was unplugging the main MISAR connector to the distributor, it was super crusty in there. So I just want to get rid of that system for now, so I can work on the rest of the car. But I want to keep the distributor so I can maybe go back to it for originality and just for the how advanced it was and how interesting that system is, and just to kind of see what it is. But MISAR is kind of what I would guess is MISAR-ly fuel consumption, or I think it's mainly just for fuel economy. So I might get a little more performance out of this guy, but I wanted to pull that other distributor out because I wanted to test it on the bench. Well, unfortunately, I'm going to call it quits on this video. It's not the video, again, that I wanted to make. I wanted to have this thing running, making some hot oil. I've got another fuel system, temporary fuel system that I've kind of cobbled together that I was hoping the car could run off for a little while. I wanted to see the transmission shift a little bit. And I really need the car running to move forward, so that's why I've got this other distributor here, is simply to do that. But it's not a total loss. If you look inside the engine, we took that valve cover off. It is absolutely spotless, and like normally you see, you know, a whole bunch of grime and a whole bunch of buildup and everything all over the valve springs. I don't see anything. The valve springs look almost like they're brand new. So the engine definitely looks good for its age. It's just that dissimilar corrosion between the aluminum distributor and the cast block, and I've got to get over that somehow. I've got to keep working on that. And you don't really want to see that, do you? You want to see that thing running. So that's the next video. In the meantime, I'm going to be beating on that distributor. I'm going to be heating it again. I'm going to be pulling on that thing, trying to get it to loosen. And hopefully we get that done as soon as we possibly can. But anyways, I hope you like the content. If you do, like, comment, share, subscribe. I mean, who else is working on a 78 Olds XS Toronado out there, right? Am I the only guy that's crazy enough? Well, maybe I am, but you know what? We're going to get her running, because the more I work on that car, the more I think it's a very unique, very cool car, and it deserves to be running down the road once again. So thanks for watching. Have a great evening. We'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.